In November, I got sick. And I got sick to the point where I was not able to take care of my children. And the state had to be called, Child Protective Services had to be called, and my kids needed to be in the custody of someone else until I got better and I could take care of them. As a single parent, my kids, I'm all my children have. I don't have a huge, large family, and I don't have a lot of family that even live in New Jersey to help or are in close proximity to help with my children. Child Protective Services wanted to make sure that my boys were not taken out of state. They wanted to make sure that my children were still able to attend school so they could have a level of normalcy. And my now boyfriend offered to take temporary custody of both of my boys.
I worked for the state of New Jersey through child advocacy. In November of 2023, Miss McNair battled some serious health concerns that left her unable to care for her children. So Asmodeus offered to take temporary legal custody until Miss McNair was better. He was approved via telephone interview. He stated he lived with his mother and had only 3 children. Asmodeus was listed on the application as Miss McNair's boyfriend. This information was applied to his application as well as his employer. It was to the court's understanding that he would be moving into residence with Miss McNair until further notice. I did complete an at-home inspection to see that Asmodeus in fact had sufficient belongings in the home, and to finalize the order, he and Miss McNair both attended a Zoom court hearing with Judge Linda E. Nunn. On December 19th of 2023, I visited a residence of Miss McNair with Asmodeus present to sign documents. That same day, and the children were handed over to the temporary custody of Asmodeus. He at that time had spoken to me about Miss McNair and his feelings for her, making statements such as, "She's the one, I'm in love with her, and I will be proposing soon." Our agency also provided Asmodeus with a Chromebook and toys for his daughter. I'm shocked to find out how this has all played out. Asmodeus was even present for school tours with myself and Miss McNair. In the past several months, I met with Asmodeus on many different occasions for in-home visits.
CPS did a background check. They went through everything, and they approved him, and he had to go to Google Meet. It was Google Meet. We did court through Google Meet. I was there, he was there, someone from CPS was there, the judge was there, and it was a legal binding contract. He was approved, and the state of New Jersey gave my then boyfriend full custody of my children temporarily. And they actually came out to my home and had him sign a document, and I will be showing you guys that document. He signed that. He had to move in with me, so he brought over like a bunch of stuff. I knew that he still had to work overnight. I knew that he still had to take care of his daughter, and he made it work. Either his mom will be watching his daughter, or his sister will be watching his daughter. That's what he told me. Until I was able to take care of my children again by myself at my full capacity that I previously didn't have anymore, he had custody of them. During this time, CPS did reach out to my youngest son's father, who lives in the area only 2 miles away. He has not seen him in the last 8 years by his own free will. We've joined custody and he's just chosen not to see him. That's an interesting, we'll get to that later. We'll get to that later because it's definitely included the amount of stuff that went. The amount of stuff is insane. It's insane. Because they did contact my youngest son's father, they did enforce him having supervised visitation with my youngest son because we both had joint custody, and he wanted to look good to the state and to CPS and to the judges, so he did comply. The very first time that Joshua went for his supervised visit to see his father, my ex-boyfriend took him. I was at work. I couldn't get him there. I was at work. So he picked him up from my babysitter's house and took Joshua to the center where he would meet with his father. And it was his first visit. He hadn't seen him in 8 years. He's about to be 11 literally in a few days. So he didn't know him, and they were obligated to tell him, this is your father, because I had asked if you guys could just say this is your friend or your cousin, only because the man was so very inconsistent. There's no reason for you not to see your child for 8 years straight when you live 2 miles from your child. So because of his inconsistencies, I had requested that you just introduce him as a cousin or a friend so they can build a relationship first before you dump him on his father and say, this is your father. And then that man just goes ghost afterwards. And now I've got to explain to a kid why a man you just met left. I didn't want him to go through any type of trauma from that experience. But the first visit went well. They were scheduled to meet every Sunday for 2 hours, and a therapist was present. The very following Sunday, I was at work again, and my ex-boyfriend took my son for his visit. And once my son Joshua got to the visit, he got hip to what was going on, because he was just like, let me get this straight. The last 2 Sundays, you pick me up and you don't take my brother with us, and you get me Dunkin' Donuts. And then we go here, and I see that man that I don't really know, and I've decided that I don't like him either. So for that last visit, Joshua had a terrible episode. He was screaming and yelling and saying, I hate you, I don't like you, you hate my mom. As far as those statements go, I've never ever told my children about their fathers in a negative light. If they ask me about their father, we have a conversation. I try to feel for where they're at and what they really want to know. And I've always braced my children with this information because there is just no sense and point to me for me to badmouth my children's fathers to my children. That is counterproductive when it comes to raising a child. The last thing that I need is my kids spiraling because of men that are literally not even here. And that would only hurt my children, which would in turn hurt myself. There's no reason for me to create an environment where my children are crying and I can't fix what they're crying about. So that's the reason why I just never told my children a crap load of things when it comes to their fathers. So wherever my son Joshua got these ideas that he didn't like his father and that he hated him and that he feels as though his dad hates me, those were, he was 10 at the time, so he's not stupid. He's putting 2 and 2 together, and he doesn't like what he's realizing. So because of that episode, the therapist suggested that they end it immediately, and my ex-boyfriend took Joshua and dropped Joshua back off at my babysitter's house. Following that, we ended up, the judge ended up actually saying Joshua's dad needs to go take an 8-week course on parenting, and then we'll revisit this idea about the supervised visitation because we can't traumatize this child. You have willingly chosen to be MIA for the last 8 years. He doesn't know you, of course. This is going to be his reaction. I still don't understand why they actually put it in place in the first place, because if that man wanted to see his child, he would have seen his child. He would have taken me to court and asked to enforce the order. The only reason why the order wasn't enforced is because I'm not going to chase you around town to beg you to see a child that you've joint custody with me of. If you want to see him, you will. But look, honey, I chased you myself. I will not have my boys chasing these men. I will not have my boys chasing these men. I will become a completely, totally different person if you disappoint my child. And I don't want to be that person. My ex-boyfriend witnessed, he witnessed the interaction. He told me what Joshua's father said, his body language, and how he was so quick to give up. He didn't want to try and talk to Joshua or calm him down or communicate or anything like that. He did tell me that Joshua's father told him that the reason why he had been gone so many years is because he lost my phone number. And Joshua wasn't buying it. Kudos to my son for having working brain cells, right? But I truly, truly appreciated the fact that my ex-boyfriend was helping me and helping me so much. And I really, really, that meant so much to me. That meant a lot to me. In the month of November, that's when the cash transaction started to happen. My ex-boyfriend came to me and he said, could you help me out with my cable bill at my house? My Wi-Fi is going to be getting cut off, so can you help me with this bill? And I was like, that's the least I could actually do. Like, you have given me so much just by being a nice person, and you really have gone above and beyond, because I don't know too many other men that would actually do that in a brand new, fresh relationship, because essentially he was taking on a responsibility. A legal binding contract was set in place. So I did feel like that's the least I can do. It's not a big deal. Sure, of course, I'll help. So I Zelled him the money. I either Zelled him the money or I gave him my debit card and he just did the transaction online. I do have to check my bank statement and check my Zelle because I have receipts for everything. So I'm going to have to check that. In this text message, you can see that Asmodeus said, thank you for checking on me, had a small hiccup with my bill. He is referring to the internet, and that's what I paid for. I did use a card that I no longer have. It was a prepaid debit card. I transferred the money there because it was going to be safer, in my opinion. And it was the first time that I had given my card to him to use. So I don't actually have it on my bank statement, but I do have to transfer to that card. In these text messages, it's just miscellaneous conversation Asmodeus and myself would have on a day-to-day basis, but pay very close attention to the dates, the times, and the context of each and every text message. As we continue through this series, you're going to see that each and every teeny tiny detail really does matter. And as you can see, by November, we were already exchanging I love yous.